The night began like any other episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The audience buzzed with excitement. Laughter echoed through the studio, and Colbert's signature charm carried the monologue with his usual rhythm. But the mood took a drastic turn when Leonardo Di Caprio, the Oscar-winning actor and outspoken environmental advocate, took the stage for what was expected to be a lighthearted interview. Dressed sharply in a charcoal suit, Leo greeted Colbert with a firm handshake and a polite smile, sitting down as the crowd gave a warm, enthusiastic welcome. The initial questions touched on his upcoming film, a highly anticipated political thriller set for release later this year. DiCaprio spoke eloquently about the themes of corruption, climate urgency, and personal integrity, weaving in anecdotes about filming in remote parts of the world. The conversation seemed headed in a smooth direction, until Colbert pivoted perhaps too abruptly toward DiCaprio's more controversial stances. The shift began subtly, with questions about the hypocrisy critics often point out. When celebrities speak on climate issues while living lavish lifestyles, Colbert, known for his biting wit, framed the topic in his typical comedic tone. But it was clear from DiCaprio's tight expression that the question had struck a nerve. DiCaprio responded calmly at first, defending his activism by pointing to the measurable impact of his foundation, his carbon offset contributions, and the documentaries he's produced to raise awareness. But Colbert pressed harder, referencing a recent tabloid report that Leo had taken multiple private flights in 1 week. "Don't you think?" Colbert asked with a raised eyebrow, "that flying private while preaching about emissions sends a mixed message?" The audience chuckled uncomfortably, unsure whether they were watching a bit or a genuine confrontation. DiCaprio leaned forward, voice steady but sharp. He acknowledged the criticism but stressed the complexity of the issue, pointing out the often overlooked systemic factors and the lack of meaningful climate policy from governments. The back and forth escalated as Colbert, perhaps sensing viral potential, asked whether celebrities should take a backseat on political matters altogether. DiCaprio's demeanor changed. He crossed his arms, looked away briefly, then turned back, and asked Colbert point-blank whether he truly believed silence in the face of crisis was the better alternative. The tension in the room was now undeniable. What happened next caught even the most seasoned audience members off guard. Colbert, clearly not expecting such a direct counter, doubled down, suggesting that the public is tired of being lectured by Hollywood elites. He invoked examples of celebrities who faced backlash for tone-deaf climate messages during luxury events, and asked whether Leo ever wondered if he's doing more harm than good. DiCaprio's jaw tightened. He took a breath, then launched into an impassioned defense not just of himself, but of all individuals trying to leverage fame for good causes. He spoke about the urgency of the climate crisis, the privilege he recognizes he has, and how that privilege comes with responsibility. "I'd rather be accused of hypocrisy while doing something," he said, "than sit silent and complicit." His words were powerful, but the emotional weight was heavy. Colbert, perhaps realizing the conversation was moving beyond entertainment into dangerous territory, attempted to lighten the mood with a joke, but the damage was done. The connection between host and guest had fractured, and the crowd's laughter no longer masked the discomfort in the air. The next few minutes became a high-wire act between maintaining composure and letting personal frustration show. DiCaprio answered a few more questions, but his responses grew shorter. Colbert shifted back toward the movie, trying to reset the tone, but DiCaprio no longer played along with scripted charm. When asked whether he'd ever consider running for office, a question clearly meant as a humorous jab, DiCaprio gave a curt "no," followed by a pause that felt endless on live television. He looked around the studio, then at Colbert, and finally said, "I think we're done here." At first, there was confusion. Was this a bit? A staged moment for ratings? But then, DiCaprio stood up, removed his microphone, and offered a polite nod to the audience before walking off stage without another word. The camera scrambled to adjust. Colbert sat speechless for a moment, then smiled awkwardly and muttered something about technical difficulties before cutting to an emergency commercial break. Viewers across the nation took to social media instantly, flooding timelines with hashtags like #LeoWalksOut and #ColbertClash. In the hours that followed, news outlets ran with the story. Headlines speculated about the fallout, with some calling it a rare moment of genuine celebrity conviction, and others labeling DiCaprio's exit as a meltdown. Analysts debated whether Colbert had crossed a line, or whether DiCaprio had overreacted to questions that public figures should be prepared to answer. Meanwhile, neither party issued a statement that night, leaving fans and critics alike to analyze body language, replay audio clips, and dissect every word exchanged on the segment. Within 24 hours, the interview became one of the most replayed segments on streaming platforms, with millions of views and thousands of comments debating who was in the right. Memes, reaction videos, and think pieces saturated the internet. Some praised DiCaprio for standing his ground on issues he believes in. Others sided with Colbert, claiming he was simply doing his job by holding public figures accountable. What was clear was that something deeper had been exposed, a cultural fault line about celebrity, responsibility, and the limits of entertainment. Over the next few days, both men eventually broke their silence. DiCaprio issued a short statement on social media, thanking The Late Show for the invitation and reiterating his commitment to climate advocacy. He acknowledged the intensity of the conversation, but emphasized that difficult dialogue was necessary in times of crisis. Colbert, for his part, addressed the incident in his monologue a few nights later, with a mix of humility and humor. He said, "Sometimes when you poke the bear gets up and leaves." He acknowledged that the interview went off script, and admitted that the tone might have tipped into confrontation, though he stood by his belief that tough questions are essential. The Late Show team released the full unedited footage online, further fueling public analysis. What could have been a minor PR incident evolved into a broader conversation about the role of celebrity activism, journalistic integrity, and whether talk shows have become battlegrounds for real discourse rather than platforms for promotion. In the weeks that followed, DiCaprio kept a low profile, declining interviews and avoiding red carpets. Rumors swirled about tensions with studio executives, who feared the walkout might overshadow the upcoming film. But inside Hollywood, many quietly praised his actions. Directors, actors, and producers spoke off the record about the increasing difficulty of balancing honesty with marketability. For DiCaprio, the incident appeared to reinforce his commitment to advocacy. He doubled down on environmental campaigns, released new content on his social platforms highlighting urgent climate issues, and appeared in surprise cameos at environmental summits. Meanwhile, The Late Show rebounded quickly. Ratings soared in the days after the confrontation, and Colbert resumed his usual blend of satire and social commentary. Still, something had shifted in the way audiences viewed the format. Viewers became more attuned to the dynamics at play during celebrity interviews. The line between entertainment and accountability had blurred, perhaps permanently. Months later, during a press junket for the film that had originally brought him to The Late Show, DiCaprio was asked once again about the night he walked off. This time, he spoke more openly. "I think there was a moment when I realized we weren't having a conversation, we were playing parts," he said. "And I don't think that helps anybody." He explained that he doesn't regret leaving, though he wishes the discussion could have taken a different tone. He spoke about the pressure celebrities face to maintain a brand, and how that can sometimes clash with personal convictions. For DiCaprio, that night served as a reminder that being honest sometimes comes with a cost, but it's a cost worth paying, and fans applauded his candor. And while some critics remained skeptical, others began to reassess the value of authenticity in a media landscape often driven by rehearsed soundbites and pre-approved talking points. DiCaprio's career continued. But the narrative around him evolved. He was no longer just a movie star, but a figure emblematic of the struggle to speak truth in a curated world. Eventually, the incident faded from trending lists, but its echoes remained in the media ecosystem. Other celebrities became more cautious about appearances. PR firms revamped their pre-show briefings. Showrunners reminded hosts to balance comedy with compassion. And yet, the moment between Colbert and DiCaprio lingered in public consciousness. As a rare unscripted rupture in an era of managed messaging, podcasts and documentaries revisited the moment as a case study in modern media tensions. It became a teaching point in communication courses, and even a meme template for when interviews go wrong. But for many, it was a necessary crack in the illusionary reminder that beneath every glamorous exterior is a person capable of feeling cornered, defensive, and ultimately, principled. As the news cycle moved on, both DiCaprio and Colbert resumed their respective missions, seemingly unchanged on the surface. But those who watched closely understood that something real had happened, something unplanned, something true. It was not the first time a celebrity interview had gone off the rails, nor would it be the last. But this one struck a chord, because it touched on more than just celebrity. It delved into the social contract between fame, responsibility, and the media's role in shaping public understanding. For Colbert, it was a moment that challenged the balance between satire and sensitivity. For DiCaprio, it was a test of values over vanity. And for viewers, it was an invitation to think critically about who we allow to influence us and how we treat those who try. In the end, the fiery confrontation didn't destroy reputations or end careers. It sparked something more meaningful: dialogue, reflection, a deeper look at how we speak to each other when the cameras are rolling and the masks begin to slip. Whether one saw it as a meltdown or a moment of integrity, there was no denying its cultural impact. It reminded us that even in a world of rehearsed charm and controlled narratives, the truth still has a way of finding its moment, even if it walks off stage to do it.